I would like to request to all the learners who are here present, please make sure that your mic is muted and your camera is also turned off, because it is going to create a little bit of, uh, you know, uh, it will be disturbing for the speaker. So we will try to keep it that way only. I request all of you to please mute yourself and keep your cameras shut also. We will be having a question answers round after the end of the session. Okay, so we'll have good enough time. So please keep your save your questions till the end of the time. Okay, so we'll make sure that everything is operating smoothly. We will wait for another 2 more minutes. There are more people joining in. Let's just wait for another 2 to 3 minutes. Till then, what you can do is just go into the chat box and let me know from which part of India you are joining in. Or if you are from outside India, then also please let us know from which part of the world you are joining in for this particular session. Just write it down in the chat box, guys. Good. Okay, okay. So we have people from Kerala. Sorry, we have people from Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Mumbai, Karnataka, Bangalore, Pune, Maharashtra, Nasik, Delhi. Okay, we have someone from Malaysia as well. Bangalore, we have people from Nepal, Gwalior, Punjab, Nasik. That's good. That's really good. We have people from across India also, and we also have people out of India as well. So that's really good. I really want you all to have a great experience after this session that we are going to start in another 2 to 3 minutes. So, before getting into it, before actually starting the session, I just want to make you understand one thing is this is a series from DIY Guru, Team DIY Guru, is where we are calling industry experts every other weekend. Okay, so last week we had another guest with us who was also an alumni from our DIY Guru company only, but he is the VP of Air India. So he shared some beautiful experiences with us and a very great career path into this particular domain only. So we would expect the similar kind of experiences or maybe greater than those from today's session as well. So what I want is from all of you, just give me one thing, that one, you will keep yourself completely dedicated towards this session. Even if you have some commitments, those commitments can wait for half an hour or maybe 40 minutes. This session won't take more than 50 minutes or so. So we would want that please keep yourself committed to the session, and I would want you all to ask the questions, whatever questions you'll be having during the session. Just write it down either in the chat box, or you can write it down at your end also. And when we will be proceeding for question answer session, then you can ask those questions also, right? So this is how we can try and operate smoothly. Otherwise it will be a very chaotic thing, because we are almost 50 people over here. So this is going to create a little bit of chaos. That is something that we will try to eliminate, right? So yeah, this is how we are going to start. Now let's wait for another 1 or 2 minutes, and then we will be continuing ahead with this particular session. So, are you guys all excited? Please let me know. Just give me some reactions if you are excited for this session. I know this session is going to be a very, very amazing session for today, because the speaker that we are having is somebody who is very, very, you know, one of an SME in its own field. So we would like to get as much possible information from him that we can. So it will be a great opportunity for all of you present over here. I would request from all of you, just make sure that the decorum of the session is maintained, and we will try to grasp whatever we can, right? So let's not waste any more time. I think we are good to go. we can start the session as of right now. So let's just wait another minute only. I guess, yeah, let's wait one more minute and then we will be starting off. Then we'll be kicking off. So our speaker has also joined the call. Okay. So we will be starting. And a warm welcome to all our learners joining in. My name is Rahul Kumar. I am the senior technical trainer over here at DIYguru. I am one of the faculty over here, and I am basically teaching multiple different domains into electric vehicles only. So I am here as a moderator today to help you all with the with to course through with this particular session. We have our guest also who is joining us, and I'm sure that with his experiences, with his whatever the key points that he wants to give to us, will definitely help us in learning new things ahead, or maybe choosing a different career path in future. So we will be keeping ourselves much oriented into this session only. So, as we have already seen that we have people almost from across the India, we have multiple people joining in from the south part of the India, Chennai, Tamil, like Chennai, Bangalore, Kerala, Hyderabad, and all. So people are joining from these cities. People are joining from Maharashtra. People are joining from Gwalior and all. So that's really good. We have people from Nepal also. We have people from Malaysia also. So that is really good. Like we do hope that this is going to be a great session ahead for all of you. So let's start with the session, guys. I hope everybody is ready. Now we are kicking it off. So, on behalf of Team DIY Guru, I welcome you to another edition of our Industry Masterclass series. So, as I've already mentioned, that this is the another edition. We have done it in the last week also, and this is the second edition of our Masterclass series, where we invite experts shaping India's mobility and EV ecosystem to share real world insights and career guidance. Now, as you all know, you guys have joined in for today's topic, navigating the mobility ecosystem, the real world roles, skills, and growth journey. It is all about understanding the opportunities that lie within the automotive and EV sector, and how different roles work together to drive innovation and growth. Now, this is something that we need to understand, right? And this is something that our guest will be able to guide us into this particular path, and we will want to grasp everything what we can, right? So, in this session, we will explore how real world roles from technicians and test engineers to quality specialists and trainers from the backbone of India's automotive and electric mobility industry. Okay, so we'll understand all these roles. Okay, and you'll also learn how organizations like ICAT, International Center for Automotive Technology, one of the India's most respected automotive R&D and testing bodies under the Ministry of Heavy Industries, are guiding the nation's transition towards sustainable, smart, and electric mobility. So I hope you all know what ICAT is. You all have heard about ICAT. You all have somewhere learned about ICAT. I am hoping that you already know about it. So I think, yeah, this is pretty much it. So let's not waste any more time, and uh, let's do one thing. Before inviting our guest, let me do one thing. Let me just put a link into the chat box. That will be your attendance link. Why I am putting that attendance link? Yeah, so our support team has already put the attendance link. Please just take 10 seconds and fill out the attendance so that we will be able to provide you the recording of this session later on. Guys, take 10 seconds, and once you are done with it, just give me a reaction, everyone. I'm waiting for 10 seconds. Just give me a reaction when once you are done with it. Okay, okay. Only three people, four. Come on, five. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, now I can see many people have done it. Rest of you, please do it right now only so that we can kick off with the session. All right. Okay. Can't click on the link. Support team, can you please check if there is an issue with the link? All right, we will be sending the link once again. And before inviting our speaker, I would like everyone to just turn off their cameras. Please, everyone, turn off your cameras. Everyone, please turn off your cameras. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Please, everyone, turn off your camera. Vipul, please turn off your camera. All right. So let's get it on, guys. Let's start with it. So I welcome. Now it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today, Mr. Ankit Trivedi, lead ICAT Incubation and Acceleration Center. ICAT stands as India's premier automotive testing certification and R&D center under the Ministry of Heavy Industries. Mr. Trivedi leads the Incubation and Acceleration Center within ICAT, a specialized division supporting startups, researchers, and engineers working at the cutting edge of mobility innovation. His work is focused on fostering practical innovation from component development to system level validation and empowering the next generation of engineers who will drive India's electric mobility revolution. We are truly honored to have him with us today. Please join me in the extended a warm welcome to Mr. Ankit Trivedi. Sir,
Hi, thank you, Rahul, for that introduction. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope I'm audible.
yes, you're audible.
All right. So, like you've already said the context, Rahul. Here, what I'll be presenting today, like DIY is already there to take you through the nitty gritties of the technology domain. What I'm trying to paint here today is contextualize e-mobility as a domain and what all different roles it entails in terms of the ecosystem as a whole and how they are intermingled. I created one slide because Muskan had asked me to. So I created one slide how different roles augment and I would say complement each other in taking further this green mobility and sustainability goal that we have taken up in part as a part of the overall, I would say, larger ecosystem that we are a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So not just let me know if when my slides are visible to you. Give me a second.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, great. So just to give you a brief of what ICAT does and what my role is at ICAT before taking you further. So ICAT stands for the International Center for Automotive Technology, and we are a part of the National Automotive Board in India under the Ministry of Heavy Industries. So right from supporting the government in policy making to the regulations and representing India abroad in the regulatory forums, when I say abroad, the UNEC, WP29, etc., the BIS forums, And we have an in-house capability of testing an end-to-end vehicle level certification, right from the smallest component level testing, let's say a UTM test of a bolt, to a test track validation of a complete N-class vehicle, that is your commercial vehicles. So that being said, the in-house ecosystem that we have helps us enable not just test and validate the existing products, but also help in research and development of what would be the requirement of future. And also that one part of this is once you are testing and once you have data available, then it helps you put up a data driven approach towards what should be the technology roadmap in terms of the coming years for whatever is the goal set by the authorities. Or let's say if we talk about the global alliances that we have, like our honorable prime minister in COP26 said that we want to bring down the the CO2 output, the carbon footprint, and so much penetration of EVs. So, as a Ministry of Heavy Industries is the nodal body entrusted with the deployment of e-mobility in the country. So, we are enabling both demand side as well as supply side. When I say demand side, that is for enabling the consumers to adopt e-mobility solutions, and supply side is for enabling the manufacturers to come up with better and better solutions for the end consumer, while also being uh, cost sensitive as well as being competitive to the global markets. We all know how post COVID the global trade wars have gone off. So we don't want our indigenous industry to be disadvantageous by trying to adopt the cleaner mobility solution. So as a part of the industry support interventions, what MHI has is the PLI scheme, the production linked incentive scheme. As a part of the demand side, we all knew there were two FAME schemes, FAME 1 and FAME 2. And currently what we have is the PME drive. So that's a brief about ICAT and what ICAT does. And in my current role, like I have been associated with ICAT for over 15 years now. Started off my career as a powertrain engineer, working with engine labs, then vehicles. Transitioned on to, I would say, regulatory domain. So I represented ICAT on AIS 137 when it was coming up as the BS6. I worked with the deployment of LNG as a fuel when it was introduced during the Bharatmala project as a part of the government and Petrofed interventions. Later on, I moved from technology towards more product development. So I helped establish ICAT's first incubation and acceleration center under the MHI, and our first cohort that we proposed under the capital goods scheme of MHI was for supporting 15 startups to the tune of around 50 crores for developing indigenous technologies that will have IP which is retained within the country, and it will have a tangible import reduction of what we envisaged at that time, 22,000 crores over the period of 5 years. Presently, I also am a board member of Aarti Foundation, which ICAT along with IIT Roorkee has created as a Section 8 entity. So Aarti stands for Automotive and Allied Research and Technology Innovation. So besides being a board member, I'm also currently acting as the CEO of this foundation. So under this, we have gotten a grant of 25 crores from Ministry of Heavy Industries for supporting 4 startups which are working in EV domains. When I say EV domain, so they are working on multifarious products. One is a complete two-wheeler platform, which would be, it was launched by IIT Delhi rather last year in the presence of Honorable Shri Nitin Gadkari ji. And then we are producing one axial flux motor, which would be helping indigenize the requirement of motors, which, needless to say, are at the center stage of e-mobility deployment. Apart from that, we have got one very unique product, which is about inclusivity. So it is a platform which can dock any kind of a wheelchair that is present for the Divyangjan, as we call them, the specially abled. So it can dock all the 22 kinds of docking systems available across the globe using that platform. And last but not the least, we've got our most, I would say, innovative product, that is a battery, uh, I would say not battery manufacturing in totality, but they are cell sorting and spot welding machines, which would be automated in the country. So as we know, e-mobility without the battery technology stands useless. So this technology, in terms of creating the battery packs, the machines which we are creating would help set up the battery production lines in the country. So that's just a brief of what my role has been. Where I'm going to take you today is I wanted to I was told that this gathering would be of different kind of people, different strata. That we are not just talking about policymakers. There can be people who are senior executives. So it was a kind of a mix that I was given to. So what I've tried doing is I've created a roadmap or for you to see what e-mobility looks like in the current scenario. What are the future trends? What are the technologies we are looking at? What different roles are present in terms of mobility and what the upcoming trends are, and how these roles would be intermingled together, and what entails the augmentation for you as I would say a part of this group at whatever level that you are working in. So how can you augment your skills? What entails your upliftment in terms of technology as well as your own skill sets for you to be pertinent for the upcoming products or where the auto industry is headed. So yeah, now clean mobility, like what do you understand by clean mobility? So in the context that we're talking today, e-vehicles and sustainable transportation. When we say sustainable, so sustainable is not just about transitioning from an X mode of transportation to a Y. When I say sustainable, sustainable here pertains to something which on a total cost of ownership, the TCO that we say, TCO as well as the well-to-wheel analysis is lesser uh, impactful on the environment as well as the overall consumer expectation. So that kind of solution, if we are able to provide through e-mobility, that is what would entail a sustainable transportation. Needless to say, why do we need it? The global focus that has been there for the past decade or so now, I mean, it's increased. It has been there for, I would say, 50 odd years since the Industrial Revolution 3.0. But the last decade has seen more and more interventions and more impact being created by, I would say, people coming together and addressing this as a challenge that needs to be focused on. I mean, it cannot be let. So reducing the carbon footprint happens to be one of the key goals that clean mobility is pegged to address. Then integration of the renewable energy. We're all talking about newer modes of energy, but then how do you integrate that into the mobility, which happens to be one of the largest energy consumers? So that also entails, in terms of backward integration, if you take it, that also entails what would essentially be called clean mobility. Now, talking about India's e-mobility growth, so just to cite some figures, our EV sales are 3 times what they were since 2022. The FAME scheme, as I told you, the PME drive, PLI, and also the other schemes by various other ministries, the MNRE, MIT, etc. They are helping us adopt the key drivers for taking forward the mobility. And the vision that the government is moving ahead is that there has to be a 30% EV penetration into the entire mobility ecosphere by the year 2030. So this would give you the gravity of how the government mechanism is really serious about e-mobility coming up. So let's say if people who think whether or not e-mobility is going to pick up, it most definitely is, because this is being driven by the highest levels of the government. Now, talking about the global EV landscape, I'm sure most of you would know that China happens to lead the EV adoption across the globe. So they have more than 50% plus market share, and that also makes them one of the key people who have iterated their own solutions and also become one of the largest suppliers for the e-mobility entire value chain, right from the systems, subsystems, aggregates, the products. Europe and US, they are rapidly transitioning, but there are some challenges. India, if I were to say, is a very unique case. So India is emerging as a cost innovation hub. We have always been a cost sensitive economy. So if you talk about adoption of technology, yes, we are very much there. But are we doing the same solutions that China would do or what a US or a European country would do? No. So our solutions have to be tailored to what would be created for a country that has the largest consumer population. So we don't just have the largest population in the world, we have the largest consumer base in the world. So your solutions have to be cost innovative. Now, talking about what essentially you can segment this e-mobility ecosystem. So in terms of manufacturing, you talk about the products. When I say products, you talk about two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, buses, and then there are those intermediate solutions which we see as the L1 categories, the L5, which is the e-rickshaw, which we've seen. So India has some very unique systems. Talking about deployment of this, then you would need the charging infrastructure and the battery management systems for the battery swapping. What is coming up lately as a newer domain that nobody had previously touched is the digital tech. So you talk about IoT, you talk about AI, you talk about telematics. There's so much data that is being generated and that goes into the betterment and operation of these products that we're talking about. So this is very new to the ecosystem, totally different from what the conventional mobility solutions were. Now, talking about the roles, as I was told, just to touch upon them. So let's start from the people who actually drive this. So we're talking about the technicians, let's say the ITI or the diploma, at most the diploma level people. So these are the people who help with the production of these products which we talked about. Then comes the maintenance and service. Then you come to the student base, which happens to be your pipeline for funneling any role that exists in the industry. So students would be working on both design as well as the engineering aspects. Talking about the researchers that go, you talk about the master's level students or PhD, or let's say even if somebody wants to take up their own frugal innovation, moving away from their regular professional role. So their key role exists around R&D and innovation. So it could be cost engineering, it could be value engineering, it could be augmented engineering upon an incoming IP, and it could just be a good placement fit to the product. I mean, research or an R&D in terms of product engineering doesn't necessarily entail that you have to invent something. Invention is very different from innovation. So what we're talking about here is innovation. Then comes the key driver to this industry, what we have seen. So automotive industry, traditionally, they have been a closed group. We have had a handful of the OEMs, then they have their own bunch of tier ones and tier twos who supply them the components, the parts, etc. But with the EV system coming in, the EV ecosystem developing, what we've seen is a growth or a spurt in the growth of entrepreneurial ventures in this domain. So manufacturing, if I were to give you a figure, 35% of the manufacturing GDP of this country, India as a whole, is what is driven by the mobility industry or the automotive industry. 7% of our economic GDP is automotive driven. In there, bringing in entrepreneurship, what was essentially considered to be a very capital intensive market, high turnaround times, product development timeline was 3 to 5 years. Now with the coming in of digital twins, with the coming in of I would say simulation tools which help you bring down the product development time from, let's say, 3 years to 1.5, 8 months at times for a new product launch, it has given such a good base for entrepreneurial ventures to come into this domain that automotive is no longer something which is meant for the giants. Entrepreneurial ventures with good business models and scalability, they are budding. We'll have some case studies that I've prepared for you at the end of this, but this is something which is I would say should be on the horizon for everybody who's a part of this ecosystem. Now, frugal innovation, we talked about cost innovation. So frugal is a word which is different from, I mean, India has always been something which is, there was a word, there's a very common word for all of you who are from India, we call it jugaad. So frugal and jugaad, they are two different things. Jugaad tech is something which gives you the end result irrespective of the process that you followed. Frugal is something wherein you reduce the steps that an X person has taken. Yes, that's a good to have approach, but you still follow good engineering principles. You still follow a good matrix wherein your deliverables are clearly defined, your process is clearly defined, and your start point and end point and the entire journey. It is there for somebody to follow back and forth. That is frugal innovation. So the Indian way has to be the frugal innovation, because for 150 billion population, if you think about it, I mean, I don't think you have any other way to go. If you start preparing value propositions for each of the consumers to adopt something which has not been there in the market, you being the early entrants, you have something which comes at a lower cost with a quality best at par with what is available. Anything you do on top of that is always welcome. Right. So when you say frugal innovation, how do we adopt it? Uh, First approach, we've all heard about it. Sitting in Delhi, I can tell you, the government came up with affordable EV conversions and retrofits. So we all have conventional vehicles, but let's say you drive or you are using that product or that vehicle in an ecosystem that does not support, or it is burdened by what a conventional ICE engine would spew out as the exhaust. So the first approach here would be an EV conversion and retrofit. Even in your IIT Delhi, where DIYguru is based, there is a very good startup that has worked, phenomenally good in converting a lot of conventional vehicles for the Indian Army, for some other state governments, to EVs. So what you do is essentially you retain the capital investment of what was essentially a high value product, while still not doing away, the environment, while still, I would say, not having the environmental impact that we are trying to avoid. And for the end consumer, it's a win-win situation. You do not have to scrap your entire investment. You still retain some part of it, and the environmental impact, or let's say how we were burdening our own ecosystem using that product, that is reduced tremendously. Non-import reliant, we all saw in COVID, semiconductor chips was one such example. So one supply chain disruption can have an entire industry. I gave you the figure, 35% of the manufacturing GDP of the country. Imagine, with the shortage of semiconductor chips, you could shut down more than one third of India's economy. I mean, that kind of reliance on imported subsystems, that was the key driver for me to go ahead with what I told you, supporting startups in the ecosystem, supporting people who are into manufacturing. That was my key driver when you see that kind of thing happen. So again, when we say frugal innovation, here what we need is non-import reliant tech. In fact, we are doing, as MHI, we are doing a series of events right now, and there's a very high focus from the government as well as the ministry, that we want to promote ferrite-based motors rather than depending on the rare earth metals. So the thing is, India is neither a cash-rich country nor a resource-rich country. We used to be, we are no more. So we live in the present. I mean, you can go thinking about that. Even in our families, you could see, go back 5 generations, even if you had wealth which could buy 10 times what your net worth is today, it doesn't help you where you stand in the societal hierarchy as on date. Same thing goes true for our country as well. So non-import reliant tech, that helps you avoid your adoption, or I would say, the policy intervention, how we are trying to deploy it for a country at such scale. Because for somebody like Trump, or let's say China, if they wanted to have your economy dependent on them, the first and the foremost thing before regular warfare comes into play is the economic warfare. We've all seen that in the past year or so, with so many developed economies pitting against each other in tariff wars. So the more dependent we are on something which we do not originally possess, the more susceptible we are to such measures by these people. Coming to another frugal way about what India could adopt is battery swapping and pay-per-use models. Let's say we say, I do not have enough capital investment that I want to put in for a larger battery pack, for a larger range. We could have battery swapping models that are available, that yes, I use it as and when I want to, and then I can swap it rather than having the capital investment made for that bigger pack or maybe two packs. Likewise, pay-per-use. So we've had the BaaS model, which MG introduced as first. So battery as a service, that's what BaaS stands for. We've all heard mobility as a service. So BaaS is battery as a service. So you do not have to pay upfront. Let's say vehicle that would be costing you somewhere close to a 15 lakh rupee product in the Indian market, you could easily purchase that in less than 10 lakhs. The rest of the cost is amortized over a period of your ownership of, let's say, 5 years. You've got a minimum period for using it, but then it reduces the upfront burden that a consumer would have. So this is essentially a measure that was thought about from the industry in terms of reducing the hurdles for a regular consumer from switching to a from a conventional vehicle to an EV. Then last but not the least, what I mentioned as a part of Aarti, what we are doing. So we have to have localized innovation for Bharat first. There's no other way that's available here. Coming to skill enhancement and career. So yes, I would come to what we all saw what basic careers could be, or what are the different roles. I'll have a slide wherein we dive deeper into what roles are available if we talk about e-mobility or the new age mobility solutions. But skill enhancement, I use one term. So the half-life of skills. This is a term I use in many of my lectures at various institutions. So earlier, what we would have seen that in let's say go back a generation or two, somebody who would have done a mere graduation was good enough to probably have a career that was built on sound principles, and they had I, no gap that they felt during their entire course of professional journey for fulfilling their role. But do you see that happening as on date? No. I mean, just to give you a perspective, the Indian Administrative Services asks for the minimal requirement of a candidate to be a graduate. But you as professionals, do you really think that as a graduate, you stand any chance to have yourself made pertinent to what all are the changing roles and responsibilities of a professional in the ecosystem when I talk about mobility and EVs coming in? So their skill enhancement becomes a I would say inseparable part of your journey. So what all entails skill enhancement would be here: online and offline trainings, hands-on workshop, and most importantly, the industry academia workshop. We all come from some sort of an academic setup. I talked about even the technicians; they've had some training, and the industry needs something which comes in as a resource from that academic institution. This uh, gap which we had is originally, this used to be bridged by having on-job trainings, by having some sort of uh, what we had, the induction programs for the. But I told you, let's say there was a 5-year program timeline for a product to be launched earlier. It has been drastically reduced to, let's say, 1.5 years. So the time that we had for introducing the new resources to the technology, to the processes, and making them pertinent, that has drastically been reduced. And the human capability of learning, that I'm afraid has not, I mean, it cannot be changed overnight. So that is where bringing the industry academia, the kind of interaction that we are having right now, bringing the industry and academia together, wherein you impart that perspective to the academia that whatever you're teaching is fine, but what are the bridges that you need from the curriculum to what makes the real world industry work? Those things need to be covered with what we essentially term as skill enhancement, and DIYguru, needless to say, is doing a phenomenal work there. Coming to, let's say we talked about skill enhancement. I'll just now come from what my area is. I'll start from entrepreneurship. I'll come to what the different roles would be. So let's say why entrepreneurship, and what exactly would be entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship doesn't necessarily entail that you would be somebody who is going to create businesses. No, that is the most common notion that everybody has, that if I'm an entrepreneur, I need to have a business. No, definitely not. I know this would be surprising to a lot of you. Probably at the end of the session we can have a discussion around this if time permits. But entrepreneurship necessarily entails just two things. Rahul, were you saying something?
No, no, please go ahead.
Yeah. So entrepreneurship necessarily entails just two aspects. One is that you have to be vigilant and aware of the ecosystem that you're working in, irrespective of technology, irrespective of the domain. And second thing is you need to have that innovative idea. So I would give you a word. Not many of you would have heard. There's a word coined as intrapreneurship or an intrapreneur. So let's say if I worked at ICAT, which is essentially a government agency which is into certification, we do a 240 crore business, we do over 1,000 cases every year, perfectly fine. But out of the existing ecosystem, I took up a mandate, got a buy-in from the internal stakeholders, that is right from the highest position of a director to the people who are working down below, all the lab heads. Then a buy-in from different ministries, buy-in from Startup India, from the different incubators, brought together an ecosystem, and I created a new wing, which is the Incubation and Acceleration Center. Does that entail entrepreneurship to you? That is exactly what entrepreneurial outlook and entrepreneurial approach is. So irrespective whether you are working on a line, your entrepreneurial approach could be how you help your company provide value proposition to that process which you have. Probably just create one Poka which helps you create a fail-safe or a foolproofing into that particular station which you're working in. I'm not talking about the entire line. I'm not talking about the entire product, not the entire component, nothing. Just the station that you're working in. If you could create one thing, you are an entrepreneur in yourself. But going to the largest ambit of what entrepreneurship entails, yes, it is about building scalable business models that help drive innovation. So what how does it work with e-mobility? There's a huge market for sustainable startups. So when I say huge market for those startups, the market starts right from the people who would be building and servicing those to the people who are building the businesses and everyone in between, right? And then there are government programs, even ICAT and ARAI, which are the institutions working in regulatory domain, that just a certification agency. If even we are pushing incubation, then you can well imagine what sort of support is available at the government level for this. And when I say example, so it is not just a thought or something which is being talked about. It is very much a reality. I've given you some examples here, and we'll just deep dive into what exactly these examples or these companies have done at the end of this presentation. Challenges why EV would be, or why is it a difficult, it's facing an uphill task in adoption. Needless to say, the first one is high upfront cost. Second is the lack of infra, that we do not have the necessary infra. Let's say if I use an EV and I take it to an excursion in some of the mountains, I may not have as much accessibility to the charging stations, and that for me as a consumer is a deterrent. And then last but not the least is the consumer awareness gaps. When I say consumer awareness gaps, this is essentially not just the person who would be using the EV. This starts right from the person building an EV to someone who's servicing, somebody who would be working for developing this, somebody who would be working as a homologation engineer for a manufacturer to get it certified. They wouldn't even know what entails an EV certification, because the technology landscape, it is evolving so rapidly these days that you have to keep abreast with what is the newer regulation framework, what is the new, I would say, compliance requirement that comes in. So even as a regulatory engineer or as a resource that goes into the market, what if you were doing regulations 5 years before for any XYZ company, saying that regulation for an EV ecosystem doesn't hold up. Now, what exactly would be opportunities for India in the long term, or let's say what makes India a good hub for EV and also lucrative for anybody who's trying to find a career into this? That when I mentioned value engineering and cost engineering, so automatically, if we are able to achieve the goal wherein we are able to produce frugally innovated, low-cost products at the same quality and performance levels as the globally available products, then we naturally become the exporting hub for the EV components for a global market. being the largest consumer base, which I said, the largest population translates to being the largest consumer base, you would also be having the highest number of products that are circulating. When I say products, so EV products also mean largest number of batteries. When you have that kind of a thing, you do not sell or take this away from the country. So that is in turn becoming a natural trigger or a natural driver for India to become a leader in battery recycling, wherein we are not dependent on importing virgin materials from across the globe, but recycling what we have into developing newer products. And all these things which we are talking about would naturally require as many number of people to support, and that would be creating millions of green jobs, as we call it. Now, for all the people who are attending this masterclass, let's say, I mean, what would be your, let's say, from my side, a call to action? What would be your place? So the first one is that you need to identify your place in this ecosystem. Where is it that, as per your current skill set and your aspirations, plus how you want to shape your professional journey, what would be your place in this ecosystem? You need to identify that. Once you've done that, then you need to start learning on what exactly is the required skill set, at least the basics of it. So you know the framework. You're not novice to this particular product or the newer technology domain, as we call it. Then you should be able to collaborate. That is a very big thing, because earlier what people could do is people could work in silos, but like you would have read, these days, even in terms of policy, in terms of products, there is so much commonization, because uh, it's not the kind of market where you had five products floating in for 5 years. You got essentially around the peak seasons, you've got five products per company coming in for, let's say, 10 odd manufacturers. So if you've got to bring those 50 products, it has to be a collaborative project. So let's say if there are manufacturers who are collaborating, you might have seen Suzuki and Toyota. Both of them now share platforms. So essentially the products remain the same. They differentiate in terms of the brand value, in terms of the value proposition that the manufacturer wants to bring to the end consumer, but the platform in terms of technology, the architecture, that remains same. So if they are able to do it at a product level, then you as a resource or you as a part of this ecosystem, you need to learn to collaborate. That is, I would say, it's indispensable now. What would be the future of technology? Just to talk about in terms of what the existing products are, we would be, let's say, transitioning to higher capacity, more safer batteries. So they could be, let's say, solid state batteries, the alternate cell chemistries we're talking about. There's a PLI alternate cell chemistry scheme also, which the MHI has launched for over 20,000 crores, wherein we are talking about not just the current LFP chemistries which we have. We are talking about all the alternate chemistries that could be there, like nickel metal hydride. Even that is adopted, I would say. We are talking about the sodium batteries. We're talking about there are even people who are talking in terms of adopting supercapacitors as a part of the mild hybrid systems. So there's a huge scope of I would say, deployment of different technologies, but that would be something, because energy storage solutions are the key to EV adoption. So they would be the future of this technology. Then there is one thing which talks about charging. So the regular charging cycles, I mean, if you are, as we've seen the transition over the past few years, if you as a consumer need faster chargers for something which is a handheld device for you, a mobile phone, then imagine something which is intrinsic to commuting, which is intrinsic to mobility of people. You cannot be held, I would say, I mean, if I could go beyond the level of technical jargons, we cannot be held at ransom to the fact that EV is incapacitated for the time that it is held for charging. So ultra fast charging, as we call it, that is the need of the hour, and it is indispensable to where the technology trends would take the EV ecosystem for. Then coming to the vehicle to grid power sharing. So let's say if you've got an XEV. I'm not just coming to the battery BEVs. I'm saying an XEV. Let's say it's a hybrid electric system. It's a plug-in hybrid. It's a BEV. So for any vehicle that uses an onboard power storage, there also needs to be a place. Let's say you and me as consumers, we are going somewhere for or imagine not even our consumers. Let's say we talk about public transportation systems which are essentially adopting EVs on a large scale these days, the e-buses which we see. Now imagine there is an e-bus with a 200 kilowatt battery storage on board, and it has to be avail sitting on the depot where the bus goes for the overnight thing. So there was an energy that was spent charging it. Now you have to make sure that there are safety measures in place because you've got that 200 kilowatt of energy stored on board. So we necessarily do not need to take that risk. So the next, I would say, making energy more democratized, in terms of availability, and also in terms of increasing or enhancing the safety of the storage solutions, the vehicle to grid power sharing, so that one is that you use energy from the grid to the vehicle. Second thing is, once you do not need that energy on the vehicle, you can send it back to the grid so it's available for anybody to use. So that power sharing is something which would be coming in the immediate EV technology future. Then is the predictive maintenance. So till now, the approach that an average Indian consumer has is of breakdown maintenance, that we would be hearing some noises, but unless and until it's a scheduled maintenance or it is something that comes to a breakdown, we do not take it. But then in terms of EV, you cannot really be doing it because these are not mechanical systems. These are all electric, and they've got, I would say, more and more with the evolution of technology, what you get in is a smart technology. So the moment you say smart, it is data driven. So there, predictive maintenance becomes an utmost important thing to incorporate. That is that before the breakdown happens, you are able, based on the matrices and the markers that you have, the inputs that you get of the telematics, the onboard systems, the diagnostics which you get, you're able to predict that such and such system or a component would be going to the failure based on how the performance matrices seem to us. Based on this, we are able to, I would say, avoid a lot of breakdown time. That is one. Second thing is, it is very well established in all the economic models that breakdown, repair, maintenance, vis-a-vis a predictive maintenance, the cost difference is huge. So you're able to elongate the lifetime, like what we said, the cost innovation which we need to bring in. So elongating the life of an existing component for the maximum time of its applicability is something that needs to be coming up, and that value engineering comes right from the people who are at the production, like I said. So just adopting simple practices that help make a component last. It could be from the manufacturing practices which comes from the technician who's working on the line. It doesn't necessarily come from the board of the R&D head. So that kind of innovation, that kind of I would say being vigilant in terms of what product you're working in, what technology you're working with, that would be coming from all stratas of this ecosystem. New mobility trends. This is about where I would say the newer mobility solutions would be adopted. So we've heard about fleet electrifications. I told you just in the last slide we talked about the uh, public transportation systems. Shared mobility is where like the models of Yulu, wherein you do not own the vehicle but you use it as you pay, or you use it as you want it for the entire duration, but it is not owned by a particular consumer. It is available to a multiple group of people who could be using it as per demand. uh, then the next progression which comes is autonomous vehicles. So autonomous vehicles, it is very well established that an EV to be made autonomous is much more pertinent than what would be a conventional vehicle for XYZ reasons. We'll not dive deep into technology here. Then we talk about the connected mobility, the digitization of technology, which we generally term it as. So with coming in of the IoT and the AI aspects, the connected mobility is where the new mobility would be going. And the last part of it is smart city integration. So we've got smart city plans. Everybody has heard about it. There are key designated cities which are on the pathway. to become smart cities as per the various government interventions, one of the key aspects of this smart city is adoption of cleaner mobility and integration with the e-mobility solutions. So that starts right from availability of the charging to availability of the infra for deployment of these vehicles, right from the last mile mobility to the larger public transportation systems, as well as what we now hear is the newer trend in ITS, that is your intelligent transportation system. So you tend to iterate what is the transportation model based on the requirement, based on the need, based on how it changes. So let's say very small thing, when an ambulance needs to cross a signal, irrespective of what the traffic situation is, it needs to be given a green channel. Likewise, a traffic signal which closes for 120 seconds in the afternoon on the peak hour doesn't necessarily need to be making people stand for that at the dead of night. So those kind of systems, when you are integrating that back, you have to have a two-way communication. So EVs, needless to say, when I say EV, it's not just the EV, but any future mobility products that we would be seeing, they become an integral part to this entire evolution, which we just spoke about. Uh, just one slide I wanted to prepare for giving the technology domains. Like when we say skilling, so this is something which will not be a part of curriculum. I mean, I can very well say, because I am a part of so many skilling interventions as a part of some premier institutions of the country as well. But when you say the curriculum and technology which is driving the country, and the curriculum which is driving the learning of the students in the educational or the academic setups, so there's a huge gap. So I just wanted to build that perspective. It can be talked about in a generic sense, but then when you talk in very specifics, what all are the technology domains that are upcoming, so you can very well imagine, I mean, the people who are associated with academia, or even the professionals, let's say if you're working with it, how many of you would have heard about this? So first is auto cyber security. So when you talk about digitization of products, cybersecurity essentially becomes a part of it, because you need to have protection built up into anything that is digital. So right from software, data, control architectures to the entire product ecosystem, you need to have protection available. But that is something I would say very niche and not covered in any of the conventional mode of learnings. Then you talk about functional safety, that is ensuring the safe system operations of any digital systems. Battery chemistry we spoke about. So let's say we talk about solid state, the NMC advancements. So how many of us have actually seen those being created in either our industry or the academic interventions? I would say neither. So those are very specific niche people who are working into it, but then bringing the knowledge base on a wider scale for resources to be ready, that is of utmost importance here. Then motor technologies, we've heard about, I just spoke about ferrite motors or the non-rare earth metal motors, but are there really enough technology knowledge dissemination interventions out there that help you figure out what technologies would be at par with the rare earth metal motors that would, help you create products which essentially perform and even for a price point, let's say they are in competition to what a rare earth metal motor would be. So those technologies would be something that needs to be really focused upon. So if anyone who's working on that domain, they need to deep dive into it. ADAS and autonomous systems, they are coming up. Let's say level 1, level 2 ADAS, we've already seen they are a part of the conventional vehicles also. But let's say if you go up to level 4, where autonomous driving comes in, into an EV, that becomes even more, I would say not challenging, but it becomes more intricate for the person, because the control systems essentially come from the same part of it. There's no other system that is driving. The same system that is driving the vehicle is the system that's controlling the vehicle. So your inbuilt subroutines need to be very thoroughly reviewed by whoever is working on it. When power electronics, so we talked about high power charging or the high speed charging. So right from the onboard chargers to the chargers that we have available for the public transportations, the high efficiency inverters and converters, we need to develop them. Currently, I would say even the core of these converters that we're using, they're all being imported. So unless and until we know about the tech, how are we going to talk about building it in the country? Last but not the least, the connected vehicle. So telematics is a big part of all the OEs. There's so much of data that can be generated to help identify, right from the uh, trends in how a vehicle is being operated to what goes into a vehicle into making it operate better within the same boundary conditions. Then the IoT, the Internet of Things that we have, and OTA. When you've got so much software going, you're essentially the entire vehicle becomes an IoT device. It is like your IoT on wheels. It's an Internet of Things. So you're driving something which is essentially, if you could add a powertrain to your mobile phone, it would be an electric vehicle. So if you're talking about that, then a mobile phone system software update is essentially not as much a security risk to the human life. When I say human life, it is both for the pedestrian as well as the occupant, somebody who's driving and somebody who's in the surrounding or the vicinity where that vehicle is being driven. Imagine now that kind of a glitch. If someone was updating a mobile phone, you had some glitch, you restarted it, it's fine. But imagine if you're doing that kind of a software update over a vehicle platform on the road, you got an update and you had a glitch. So there's so many lives at stakes that this cannot happen. But then are we being, you know, very upfront in teaching those kind of technologies? No. So that again becomes one of the emerging tech domains that needs to be really brought into focus. So skill augmentation. Now we talked about technology, we talked about the emerging trends. Now, how does skill augmentation brings in pertinence for the people who are working into it? So let's start from the line level, people who are producing it. So I told you, let's say we talk about technicians. So the advanced diagnostics and safety, unless and until we understand what goes behind the process of how that diagnostic is being done, what it helps avoid, and what is the product functionality, we'll never be able to do it. Now come to the people who go, when I say students here, I'm talking essentially about the engineering undergrads. So now we talk about the powertrain. We don't say EV powertrains, we say electric powertrain. So whatever the source of your energy, it will be an electric powertrain. When you talk about the AI that goes into it, the IoT. So unless and until, excuse me, we talk about what the technology is, unless we have that skill, I'm sure this is not a part of any of the curriculum that we have as on date. So that bridging gap which we have from what the technology roadmap looks like in the products that are going to come onto the road when you become a resource from a student to what you're being taught as a student, that needs to be, I would say, covered through a skill augmentation exercise. uh, get into the researchers. So if we are talking about developing new products here, battery chemistries, the AI model designs, the IoT, the FOTA, the firmware over the air, which we talk about. So those people, unless and until you know what the current trends are, the best in class across the globe, and where, what all are the pros and cons of having those deployed in the existing markets or whatever ecospheres they are working in, deploy that model in the Indian context, see what iterations you need to do, and then establish pertinence. So unless and until someone's got that skill around that particular aspect, they'll never be able to take that approach. And entrepreneurs, yes, needless to say, the battery swapping. So you need to find out what model you are or what domain you need to bring up your business model into. And so let's say I've taken up a few things here. Let's say battery swapping, mobility as a service, analytics, very basic thing from telematics. You're generating data, do analytics, give somebody meaningful uh, interpretations from that data. So unless and until I understand that data, I understand the technology where it's coming from, and how am I even ever able to understand, gauge it for myself rather than giving it to somebody who would be a consumer for this. So skill augmentation again. This is one thing which I created. I mean, it would seem like a cluttered slide, but I just tried to bring the entire whatever we have spoken around the different roles. I tried to bring it onto one page. And so essentially what this does is, how this is structured is that I've brought in roles on the extreme left, as you see. So these are the different roles, and then what they do, how they are enabling the other people in the entire ecosystem that we're talking about, and then just one example of how they would do it, just to give you a use case. So again, starting from technicians or the service engineers. So essentially what they would do is they would be handling assembly, diagnosis, maintenance, and repairs. What they're doing for enabling the others is that they feed the real world performance data and failure modes back to the engineers who are at the drawing board or at their development stage. Uh, Giving an example of this, let's say a field technician finds a recurring BMS error. So they report it back to the engineer. The engineer goes back, checks the architecture, checks the algorithm, and then they find the correction methodology, which is then deployed for the rectification of this. Now we talk about entry level engineers, the diploma in the engineering. So what they work with is component integration, the basic design, testing. I mean, each of these things have to go through the DVPV, the design validation and product validation. So that is what essentially the fresh engineers would be doing. So how they would be enabling is that they provide design support to the R&D engineers and they help in validating the prototypes. So let's say there are various, just a use case. So there are various motor efficiency variations. You did a axial flux motors, you have a gap between the stator and the rotor. So what are the different gap lengths and how your motor efficiency or the heating works onto that? So anybody who understands the basic architecture, who understands the design, but they are also able to sit and do that long-term testing, generate the first-hand data and feed it back to the R&D engineers. That is what these people do. Now we talk about the design and the R&D engineers. So these would essentially be your graduate engineers with some experience and masters. So what we do is that they develop the core systems. You talk about the battery packs, motors, power converters, safety features. How they would be enabling the others is that they develop these optimized systems for the production and even for entrepreneurship teams. Let's say I want to build up a business model. So I'll go back to somebody who's a design engineer. I'll say, hey, if you could come up with something which is a core system, has an IP developed to it, would be a differentiator from, let's say, 10 other people who are doing it in the market and helps us scale it. Just give it to me. You handle the tech, I'll handle the business, and we'll build up a good business out of it. So that is how they would be enabling those entrepreneurship, the entire viewpoint from that perspective of technology. Giving an example, let's say there is an engineer who designs a safer, low-cost LFP battery pack, gives it to somebody who builds a business model around it. They would be essentially capturing the market of anybody from an OEM to a new entrepreneur across the country, across different verticals in a day, right? Now we go to the researchers. So researchers essentially do not work around product R&D. They would be working around, new chemistries, the AI-enabled control, lightweighting of new materials, pushing what they would be doing is essentially they push the long-term innovations, not the short-term in terms of product, but they would be something which we call as the frontier technologies. And this is what would be giving the future companies or the new startups an edge across all the globe. So like I mentioned, a low-cost LFP pack. Let's say somebody brings up a new chemistry altogether, something which does not have a dendrite formation across thousands of cycles. So imagine somebody has a battery cycle or life cycle of 2000 cycles, charge and discharge, and this person says my battery can go up to infinite cycles. So you essentially kill all the competition in the market. That's what a researcher does here. Then comes the product managers, the entrepreneurs, supply chain for the backward integration, policymakers, we already talked about it, and investors and business strategists, somebody who would be actually investing into it. So I mentioned this here. If in case needed, I'll just share this slide with you later on. Now, we're just about to close this. So how does this ecosystem look, and what we essentially take as the short-term target of 2030 and beyond? So there is definitely going to be mass EV adoption with an affordability quotient along with it. There have to be, or rather there would be, local gigafactories that are being established for product development. Likewise, there would be huge, large-scale factories for battery recycling. Then EVs would be operating in decentralized energy grids. Currently, what we have is the regular energy grid, but with the infra that we're talking about, there has been a lot of schemes. Even MHI is coming up with a scheme for charging. So there would be decentralized energy grids that do not load a one grid based on the concentrated requirement, but they do off-grid powers also for supporting the EV adoption. And I mentioned this earlier also. So India would be an innovation export hub. We cannot be someone who does it on a mass scale like China. We cannot be someone who does it on a cost scale like US. but we'll definitely be, in case we are able to innovate and turn this around, we'll definitely be the innovation export hub. Now this is amongst the last slide. So just talking about the classic case studies. So we have Ola Electric. What they built was, we know a two-wheeler, but what they've built is they've built a large-scale EV two-wheeler. So you need to understand what exactly they've done. Anyone can build a two-wheeler factory, but what they've done is they've done a future factory for a large-scale two-wheeler manufacturer. That makes it affordable, that makes it scalable, that makes it available across the country. So what they've targeted is the mass consumer affordability. What they have is a D2C model with a digital ecosystem. You've heard now they're even coming up with Krutrim. So what goes across from this as a lesson, or I would say as a positive takeaway, is that they've talked about scale and they've talked about localization for the rapid adoption that we see. Again, the contemporaries of Ola, or I would say the peers, Ather. But what Ather has focused on is not large scale. Ather focuses on high performance EVs with the tech. And what they've been helping is they're building the fast charging grid. So they call it the Ather grid. That is their differentiator from Ola. What they bring across as a, I would say, consumer focused intervention is an OTA update for the vehicle. So you get instant updates for whatever are the best in class or the best solutions that they have available at the time of you're operating that vehicle, to make it more efficient than when you bought it. So what we find from this is that how they are positioned is that they talk about a premium ecosystem, but they will have a loyal customer base. Then Sun Mobility. So these are like the granddads of e-mobility. Did I? Okay, I think my slide graphics are a bit mixed, so don't you could just change that. So Sun Mobility, they started off with Riva. We all know Chetan Mani. Riva was something which Mahindra adopted as their E2O. So that was the first entry of Mahindra into e-mobility. But then how they've transitioned or how they've evolved over a period of time, they never left e-mobility. Riva didn't take off, no big deal. But what they've come across now is that they work with the battery as a service for the fleets. So if you've got a fleet of two-wheelers that work with, let's say, a shared service or a delivery service, what Sun Mobility does essentially is that they provide to you swapping batteries as a service. So they have a 2-minute battery swapping service. What this does is the upfront vehicle cost that is reduced drastically. Imagine a two-wheeler wherein the battery itself costs more than 40%. So if I am a fleet operator and you become a BaaS supplier to me, your business model helps me create 40% more fleet, capture 40% more market than with the same capital than what I would have been usually able to do. So what they did here was that they brought in frugal innovation to adopt the wider, to just enable the wider adoption. Last but not the least, shared what we said, Yulu mobility, we've heard about it, we've seen it. Everybody who's been in Delhi, Bangalore, you would have seen it. So they say you do not own it. You can just share e-mobility. EVs for the micro mobility that would essentially be a requirement for any urban commuter that we have. The differentiation or the tech integration that they've brought in is your AI-based fleet management that we see. Now, the recent partnership which they brought in with Bajaj has really given them, I would say, deeper inroads, deeper pockets, more technology innovation that goes into making them more sustainable and scalable. And what essentially sets them apart from what all case studies we heard, that they've got a shared model, and what they are doing is partnerships for scaling the growth. Right, so that was my last slide, Rahul. I'm open for questions, if any. I think I've already overshot the time that we thought.
That's not an issue. That I think that was very insightful session that you have just delivered. And yeah, definitely, I'll ask all the students if they had any questions that they can definitely shoot it up. And let's see.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Hello, sir.
Yep.
Can I speak in Hindi?
Yeah, no problems. Please go ahead. मुझे हिंदी आती है.
Okay. सर, मेरा नाम ऋषभ तिवारी है. मैं उत्तर प्रदेश से हूँ.
बोलिए तिवारी जी.
सर मैं अभी वर्क कर रहा हूँ, मतलब लिथियम आयन बैटरी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पे. सर मतलब मेरा डॉक्यूमेंट प्रोसेस सारा अभी प्रोसेस में है.
लिथियम आयन बैटरी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पे वर्क कर रहे हैं। मैं बीच में काटूं तो थोड़ा एरोगेंट तो नहीं लगेगा?
नहीं 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 सर।
सेल खरीद के बैटरी बना रहे हो?
यस सर।
इनोवेशन क्या है?
सर
मैंने अभी
मतलब
अभी बात करी इनोवेशन की, टेक्नोलॉजी इनोवेशन है, प्रोडक्ट इनोवेशन है, डिप्लॉयमेंट की बात है, स्केलेबिलिटी की बात है, कॉस्ट की बात है, क्या नया कर रहे हो?
सर मतलब कॉस्ट की भी बात है और
कहाँ से
टेक्नोलॉजी की
एस्टेब्लिश
बात
किया?
है।
मार्केट डेटा है?
यस सर।
मार्केट डेटा है अवेलेबल आपके पास? कॉस्ट की
सर
अगर आप बात कर रहे हो तो
यस सर।
कॉम्पिटिटर एडवांटेज में आपके पास कोई कोई है डेटा कि आप किस कॉम्पिटिटर के अगेंस्ट दे रहे हो? आपका सप्लाई चेन और उसका सप्लाई चेन, आपका मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कॉस्ट उसका कॉस्ट किस तरह से डिफरेंशिएट करता है?
सर ये तो सर मेरे भाई के पास है।
चलिए आप अपना सवाल पूछिए फिर।
सर मेरा सवाल है मतलब सर इसका फ्यूचर क्या है सर?
किसका फ्यूचर? बैटरी का?
लिथियम
हाँ,
बैटरी का।
बैटरी
यस।
चलेगा कैसे?
यस सर।
वही है, मैंने कहा बिना बैटरी के ईवी कोई चलेगा कैसे, तो फ्यूचर तो है ही है।
यस सर। मतलब सर लेड एसिड भी है और इसमें मतलब अदर बहुत सारी बैटरीज हैं।
देखिए, जो अभी हम बात कर रहे थे कॉस्ट इनोवेशन की, तो बहुत सारी ऐसी जगह है जहाँ पे आपको लिथियम नहीं चाहिए। लिथियम इंडिया में तो मिलता नहीं है। लद्दाख
यस
में
सर।
ढूंढा था, अभी तो निकाला तो है नहीं जाके हमने किसी ने।
यस सर।
तो वो जब तक
सर
निकलेगा तब तक, अब ऋषभ तिवारी को जब लिथियम चाहिए तो लद्दाख से तो आएगा नहीं, तो आप कहाँ से मंगाओगे? चाइना से,
यस सर।
लैटिन अमेरिका से, अफ्रीका से।
यस यस
अगर लिथियम मंगाते हो तो भी, अभी तो सेल मंगाओगे फिलहाल,
यस सर।
ठीक है?
यस
तो
सर।
उस सेल का जो कॉस्ट है, अगर
यस
वो बैटरी पैक जो यूज कर रहा है, अगर वो ई रिक्शा वाला सिर्फ आपके गांव में चला रहा है कहीं पे जहां पे आपका पैतृक निवास है,
यस
उसको
सर।
लिथियम आयन से क्या लेना देना है? उसको दिन में चलाना है 4 घंटे के लिए, रात को वहां वैसे कोई नहीं चलता है, तो वो रात को चार्जिंग पे लगा देगा, लेड एसिड चार्ज हो जाएगी, क्या बुराई है? इन्वर्टर में हम लोग तो अपने घर में लेड एसिड यूज कर रहे हैं। और आपका इकोसिस्टम भी लोकल बना हुआ है उसको रिसाइकल करने के लिए। आइडिया इज, जो मैंने 3 चीजें बोली थी आपको, एक कॉस्ट इनोवेशन पे काम करना, एक फ्रूगल इनोवेशन पे। फ्रूगल इनोवेशन पे सबसे बड़ी चीज ये भी होती है आपको क्या टेक्नोलॉजी यूज करनी है। आप एक तलवार से और एक सुई से क्या काम कर रहे हैं, आपको वो चीज निर्धारित करनी। हो सकता है आप एक ही चीज 2 तरह से काम कर सकते हो, लेकिन यू नीड टू कम टू द बेस्ट सोल्यूशन फॉर द ऑप्टिमम कॉस्ट। मैं लोएस्ट कॉस्ट नहीं बोलता हूँ कभी भी, बट ऑप्टिमम कॉस्ट फॉर द बेस्ट सोल्यूशन। फ्यूचर उसी का होता है, ठीक है? Rahul, we have another hand. I think Mohinder is asking something.
Before that, I think Mohinder's query was already catered.
Okay.
So we can go ahead with a different question. Nagul Raj is asking. He has written down his query into the chat box only.
Mhm.
So he is asking that he is already working on a NPD related to EV industry only from last 7 months,
Okay.
and he is going for an incubation also. But at this point, he is looking for some resources such as more engineers, CAD resources, software testing centers, and all. So he just wanted to know, like, what should be the process before approaching towards the incubation center, or maybe first he should be going to the incubation center and then he'll be moving ahead with all these processes.
नकुल, ऑल दीज आर अ पार्ट ऑफ द इंक्यूबेशन इकोसिस्टम। अगर आपको ये सारी चीजें पहले ही डिवाइस करके लेके जानी, देन दीज आर नॉट गोइंग टू हेल्प यू। सो आई टेल यू वन थिंग, you need to be very clear when you're going to an incubation ecosystem what would be your requirements in short term and long term for any, all the people that we are here. If you talk about people into manufacturing, your lead time is going to be anything between 2 to 5 years. So what would be your requirement in the coming year, in the next 2 years, 3, 4, 5 years? When would you require an XYZ software or a tool? You need to very clearly identify what would be the cost requirement, what is the team size that you need. Let's say in the initial stages you will just be needing somebody who's a good designer, but then eventually when you come up with a product, you might need somebody who's a good product validation engineer. Eventually you would be requiring someone who's even a homologation engineer, taking your product to a regulatory agency for testing, who can be very good at reading the compliance documents, who could be very good at documentation of your technical specifications, who can be very good at getting your vehicle tested. So all those would be your requirements during this whole thing, because your end deliverable is a product which is roadworthy and which is allowed to be working on the road. Even then, that is the point when me as an investor would be wanting to invest. So your incubation system needs to have all of these things, but then that I would say, brainstorming. I'm not very sure whether the incubation managers or the CEOs would be able to do so. You as an entrepreneur at least have to be very clear in the form of requirements which you take, and then you choose which incubation you want to go to.
Sir, I have one doubt. So
Yeah.
this is Nabul Raj. So, sir, before entering into incubation, I should have a prototype for that. So
Who
I,
said? We do an idea stage incubation also. If you have an idea, come. So there are different levels of incubation. Na? See, eventually, if you start from TRL levels. So your idea is TRL 0. From there, let's say if you want to go to TRL 3, where you bring up a proof of concept, you get a smaller amount. So we do this with one of the IITs. I'm a part of their PRC. So we give them a smaller amount. Let's say we give 1 to 3 lakhs for initially just coming up with the proof of concept. Then from a proof of concept to a minimum viable product, you would be an entrepreneur in residence, because then you're talking about product. So you give something around 10 lakhs. Then if you really want to develop that product, we would give you anything between 25 to 50 lakhs. So those are different levels and different programs that you need to enroll in. It will not be done in all in one go. So you need to, that's what I said, when you go to an incubation ecosystem, you need to go and talk at what level you are currently in. What is your incoming IP? What is your incoming skill set? What is your incoming resource base which you're bringing along with you? And how do you take that across the entire journey from where, from being with just an idea, or let's say a small prototype, to the entire product which you would be running as an entrepreneur.
sir, thank you, sir.
All right. Yeah.
I think we have another question from Mr. J. Prabhar. If you can hear me, please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Sir, I'm in the service industry. I'm in abroad. I'm in Dubai. Like, the thing is, like, we ourselves having in our own fleet where I'm working around 120 Teslas. So the 120 Teslas been used as a taxi. We are a group of taxi company. Also, we do accept other EV vehicles. As a kind of in your let's say in your session, you told like the feedback from the user, which can be forwarded to the manufacturer to redesign it or fine tune the design, or a bit needed modification, which can support in like prolonging the product life, or some kind of fail-safe mode. Like these things, if I'm not talking about DIYguru or something, if a company which initiate this, like it is much needed, because in this country, as a service manager of a company, I have a lot of ideas which I can exchange to some X or Y or DIYguru as a group or something. I can suggest you where is the flaw it is, and what kind of suggestion we are having like that. Do you have any platform for me to connect?
So, Mr. Prabhar, I can tell you two things. First is that when you say what I essentially understand from you is that you've got a skill set wherein you are able to identify some key inputs which would be very beneficial to the manufacturers based on your service experience to improve or better their products, correct?
Exactly.
So that could essentially, I can say that could become one of the consultancy services which you could provide to a lot of EV startups that are coming in. When I say startups, it's not just in two-wheelers. There's a lot of commercial EV three-wheelers that are coming in. So you can try and reach out to them. If you need, I can give you some personal connects also. So my number was displayed here. You can take it from there later on. You can send me a small proposal. I'll toss it around to the people in the network. Whoever would be interested, I think this would be a good input in case this really is valuable to them.
All right, sir. Can I take the email ID of yours?
Maybe you can take it later on, or I'll just type in my email and number in the chat. Yeah.
All right, sir.
Okay.
Next up, we have Mr. Shambhu Prasad. So, Shambhu, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Hello, Ankit. This is Prasad. Hope I am audible.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. So I just had a query regarding the means to explore the roles and responsibilities of mine. So presently, I'm an associate with an OEM. since last 3 years, and I have done my PhD. So can you suggest me what are the future roles and responsibilities I can explore in that area? I'm
So I
working in
told
the
you, as a PhD scholar, you are very well suited for people who have got advanced research. So it wouldn't be with the newer startups, but there are some that are working into it. So depending on what your domain of research was, you could be working
Okay.
in the new product development for the people who got that bandwidth for research. Because EV is wherein your product differentiation is what keeps you pertinent in the market. Otherwise, everybody is developing something which is run by battery. So essentially, what my son buys from a toy store with a remote car is what we all drive on the road. Just that it's got better safety features, it's got good, value proposition for the economic cost that it entails. That's all.
Okay. Means basically
Right.
I'm working in the area of model-based development.
Model-based
So
development. So you could be working into the newer architectures that come in, making it more efficient and frugal. Let's say even if you could reduce some components that go into it. I'm just thinking out loud here. Shorten the BOM by one material for. I'll give you an example here. So Maruti Suzuki, their CEO's innovation challenge used to be, or MEO as they used to have it back in time, managing executive officer who was also the R&D head. Challenge was to reduce some percentage of cost. So imagine in a valve, if there is a redundant tube which they could reduce, and they were producing millions of units of that particular model which used the valve, their entire target was set. So you as a researcher are very well suited for that kind of an innovation, that if you could help reduce the BOM size, the bill of
okay.
materials for a particular product, or you help them create something which is altogether new based on whatever you've researched or whatever is your domain of research. Either way.
Okay.
What I'm
Thank you.
saying
Thank
is
you.
value engineering as well as, totally inventive new engineering. Your horizon, spans from east to west.
Understood. Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ankit. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Thank you, Prasad. Next up, we have Kunal. So, Kunal, please unmute yourself.
Rahul, I am sorry, I'll be having a hard stop in next 2 minutes. If there are any more questions, I'll take this question, but after this, could you send them across later? I'll try my best to answer them soon as possible.
Definitely. Not an issue. Just, I think if Kunal is available, so we can take up this question. Otherwise, we can wrap up the session.
Perfect.
Yeah, Kunal, go ahead.
So currently I'm working as an application engineer at one of the company.
Kunal, your voice is a bit feeble. Can you be a bit more louder?
Right. Can I audible, right?
Yeah, better.
Yeah. So currently I'm working as an application engineer in one of the company. So there my role is application engineer who performs the technical demonstration of oscilloscope, power supplies, debuggers for high-end debuggers for embedded system debugging. So I'm trying to switch my career in embedded EV domain. So what kind of skill set and all other things are needed to move in this domain?
Kunal, I would say when you talk about skill sets, so that really depends on what exactly you want to bring in as, the current value which you are trying to build. Let's say you already have some experience. You said you are working as an application engineer, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So what exactly you've done in the current domain that would come into you, what I was talking. So if you consider yourself as a product, that becomes your incoming IP. So how you can augment that to make it, a value proposition to somebody who's working into embedded systems for EV. Power electronics is one such domain. Then you've got the, I would say, not the battery management system, but essentially the electrical architecture that goes into the layout of an EV. That is one place where you could work in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm focusing on more embedded related part, like learning.
So embedded, you could see embedded an EV. Essentially, I told you it's an IoT device. So you could start right from a smart headlight to anything. I can give you some parts of it. The battery management systems, the new phase change materials that we're trying to bring in, they come up with a lot of algorithm that needs to go into it. So let's say if you talk about embedded systems, so if your innovation or let's say your skill sets help me develop a subsystem, or I wouldn't say component level thing, but subsystem level, you can definitely augment your skill sets to become, an application engineer in that part.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Rahul, I'm sorry, I'll have to call it a day here for us, because I got a hard stop at 8:30. I've got somewhere to be.
Definitely, definitely. It's not an issue. Thank you so much for this very inspiring session that you have taken with us. I
My
hope
pleasure.
all of our learners got to know a lot of things. I really appreciate you going actually ahead of time and uh, just clearing out all the doubts. And I just want to let all the learners know one thing, that if you still have some doubts, please let us know. Send it to us. We will try to convey it to Ankit sir only. And then also, if there are few things that we can also help you with, please connect with us also. So thank you so much, sir, for connecting with us
Thank
for
you.
this valuable session.
All right. Bye, everyone. Yeah. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I request all the learners over here just to stay here in the call for another 2 minutes. So, as you all know that the session has been over as of right now. I hope you got something out of something very amazing after the session, because trust me, throughout the session I was there. I couldn't blink my eye because the session was that captivating. So, if you are understanding the depth of this session, please let me know if you have any questions, if any doubts. And also, there's one more thing that I want to tell you, as a lot of people were questioning about the different sort of opportunities that EV domain has to offer. So I'll tell you one thing. What you can do is our support team will be connecting with you, so that what you can do is you can connect with our DIY Guru's personal counselor. So you can connect yourself with an one-on-one counselor. They can help you to understand the EV ecosystem in a better way. They can definitely understand your particular problem. They can understand your background, and according to that, they can uh, maybe suggest you some specific domain which you are capable of. Like when you are in that domain where you are having your specialization. So that is something that we can help you with. So I would request everyone to put your email addresses into the chat box, so that our team can connect with you, and we can definitely have a one-on-one session. I myself is an counselor also. I can connect with you on a personal level. Apart from that, there are other people also in at DIY Guru. They can help you again. Yes, and yes, as you have mentioned, as Ankit sir have mentioned, that there are possibilities. There are endless possibilities. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is, first, your idea should be innovation driven. Second, you should be having a captivating amount also, like the budget of it has to be optimum budget, right? So these two things, if you are fulfilling, then definitely there are endless possibilities. It doesn't matter if you're going into an services or you want to go with an entrepreneurship. And also, he has given us a little different definition of entrepreneurship also, which is something really amazing. I hope you also got it. I hope you understand that and apply it in your particular life as well. So on that note, I would like to end the session here only, but I would request everyone to please put your email addresses in the chat box, so that we our team can connect with you and have a one-on-one counseling session with you, so that we can help you out furthermore. And not just that only, there's one more thing that I want to mention is, as Ankit sir has already shown you one thing, that a lot of job opportunities are there, from technician domain to application engineers to simulation engineers and going into the manufacturers and all. So if you want to go ahead with it, trust me, DIY Guru is one of those platforms which is helping a lot of people to reach out to that platforms. So we are here to help you out. We are here to like make it possible for you in every possible way. So just make sure that you are here, you are connected with us, and let's basically talk about it and move towards the future. So this is something that I wanted to
Attendance,
do.
attendance form, please. Attendance.
Yeah, we are providing that. So again, support team, please provide the attendance form once again. It is already there. Tilak has already put into the chat box only. Tilak, can you put it again once again? So yeah, that's it. That's it, guys. Thank you. Thank you for joining in. for today's session. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night. Thank you all. Thank you for joining in.